Good day, viewers. My name is Fortune Nosi, representing Solarcare. Today, we will be discussing a term that we have coined within the organization, SSLO, Smart Solar Load Optimization. And to help with this discussion, I've got George Simatopoulos, founder of Solarcare, and Gerco Nel, one of the founding members of Solarboard, who in turn supplies Solarcare.
The SSLO phrase that's been coined by Solarcare was actually after a discussion we've had, and for the end user, often they would establish what size plant they need. Then they would come to us as EPC and ask us to quote, and then you would build this thing, right? And sometimes you would not be awarded a tender because your price was out, and we would go back to our client and always try and kind of just dissect as to what went wrong, where were we out, and we've never compromised on the quality of install. So then this question popped up. When someone built a solar plant, how good do they know it is built? And that gets shown over a period of time. So I wonder how many people have installed solar and say that after 3 years, that plant should be producing X, and what is the actual production of it. If you went for a cheaper option, maybe not an experienced install or incorrectly designed, engineered plant, and you would believe it's there, and it's, say for example, after 3 years it should be running at 90%. I'm using just percentages, so it's not the case, but they're at 75%. Then it wasn't worth it to go for the cheaper option. So the question here is can we keep ourselves accountable to where a plant should be in its life cycle, so that companies, in our case, a lot of public companies that use us to install for them, also want to forecast their figures. How accurate are some of those companies in doing that? And I think that's where SSLO is important. And it's great for Gerco to be joining us, because part of Gerco's work, and you'll hear from Gerco a bit later what they do exactly, but why we use a company like Solarboard that specializes in part of our install. Take it away from us, so we go to the specialist because to ensure this efficiency on the SSLO side. So it'd be quite an interesting conversation, and we're putting us out to the market, the fellow EPCs or fellow experts to engage us.
On that point, it leads us to the first segment of which we'll be addressing. What is SSLO? And I believe, George, you've already touched on this in our introduction. Is there any other aspects you would like to highlight, especially when we want to communicate directly to our market, our end users, what SSLO is and why it is pivotal to have SSLO?
Well, like I said, it's important to have EPCs accountable for production of the plant, not just after a year handover, but ongoing. So Solarcare was never in operational maintenance space, but we've seen from a lot of requests that we've had from companies to get into that space. We started playing in that space, and when you're doing a plant that you haven't built yourself, you're inheriting someone else's handiwork, and we've seen some plants in disastrous plants that we've advised to, in some cases, rewire most of them, and for that reason, we're saying SSLO is a kind of a plan and data capturing methodology of where a plant should be over a period of time, and we've had discussions with some guys that monitor that with our Gen integration, and AI, important AI is coming to this thing where we bring that data into place AI actually gives us a very accurate kind of, let's say, a health check of where the plant is and where it should be. And if we see there's a dysfunction between those two, disparity between those two, then we know that there's something not right there on this plant, and we have to reassess and get engineers and problem solve.
Gerco, before we get to your opinion and input on SSLO, let's just hear a bit more about what you do and who you are.
Cool. So Solarboard was created about 2 years ago. We specialize in building electrical distribution boards for solar plants, specifically for the EPC market. I feel our expertise knowledge in the solar industry, we can give advice on exactly what the regulations are regarding the installation. We can guide the clients on what to do, where to go, regarding all of the distribution of the solar plants.
Okay, brilliant. And what would your professional opinion be with regards to SSLO?
SSLO is, to me, the forecasted yield compared to what is actually produced. We need to have a look at different factors, specifically in the O&M sector. You have degradation of the solar panels, you have a weak installation, and was the system actually designed as it should be, to be able to produce what the client is actually requiring. You can't overspec a site to underperform once the client is actually producing.
Okay, then that leads me to ask, if you mentioned the O&M side, of which I would then, as somebody who's not too privy to the solar industry, you know, maybe some of our end users don't have a technical understanding, hence why they return to us as the EPCs, you know, in order for us to build those plants. If we look at that O&M component and we look at the simulated designs, how do we then put these two together for them to create that optimization, you know, for them to create that goal that we're trying to get to in solar smart load optimization?
So I feel the client needs to be able to optimize their loads. They need to know that the system produces the most power when the sun is the highest at peak. So the client needs to know when to use the electricity, when to switch their loads to a more efficient time space throughout the day.
If I could just interject there, is we've also, by using AI, we've kind of integrated financial modeling into this, where we say to guys, this is the ROI that needs to be achieved, this is the production you're currently getting, and then link it to a financial model. Because not all of our clients aren't all technical savvy energy experts, but most of them, almost all of them, have got financial directors. And the financial directors have to look at the return of investments. Correct. So I think that one doesn't lie. So what it doesn't do is the production needs to be seen in the financials. And if you can. And what we've done is we started working on looking at ROIs for clients, bringing the financials, checking what position the system should be producing. The degradation gets factored into that. And then we would know that in the year 5 of a plant should be producing this. This is the return on investment you should be getting. You can monetize it to a financial model. And then that just makes it much more simpler. I don't know how many of the clients out there that own PV systems are monitoring like that. And that's why SSLO is something that we want to start implementing to all our clients. And for them to get the value for what they're paying for.
It goes further than that. It's daily monitoring of the plant. It's monthly reporting to actually show the client the actual figures, what the the plant is actually producing compared to what was forecast to be produced. So that, and show it in kilowatt hours and actually the financials, like I said.
Well, we know of clients that get reports, and some of them admit they don't even look at it.
No.
You know, the solar's producing and they don't really look at the figures. It could maybe in two ways, they don't know what they meant to be reading. And number two, they don't really care. Once you add to a financial model to that, the guy starts monetizing it, seeing where he's at, then you're putting your money where your mouth is.
Exactly. So don't you think it's actually the client that leaves that responsibility over to the EPC in the O&M space?
They do, but the factor of OEM for a lot of clients is the thing's working, and our panels are clean. And if we lose production, it's because the panels aren't clean. They think that's the Mac. We're taking it a bit more further. We're saying, what is the design? What is the kind? Are we using equipment and tools to measure if the strings are okay? That's why we come to a company like Solarboard, because we want that DB board not to be worked on and be a very low maintenance, even if it is 5 or 6 or 7 years. Shouldn't be tampering with it because we built by experts. And I think that's the reason, character, why we use you guys. We could build it ourselves. We've got the electricians that can go and build them, and we buy the components from different suppliers and we try and build it ourselves. We're not specialists in that, and that's why we outsource that specialization to you, because we want to ensure this on a maintenance cycle to our client. Some guys will just build it after a year. The plant will still be running, but it's not running in optimization. It leaves the client will never know whether what he's paid for is actually producing what it should be in years to come. Because the solar payback is not immediate. It's very good, but it's not immediate. So I think that's where we're trying to allude to is the quality of install, quality of engineering, and keeping accountability for that. And that's the most important.
Agreed.
No, definitely. I think that's a brilliant input that we are getting from the both of you gentlemen. I would then summarize it for the viewers that they can look at it from a point of, we've had a simulated design, then we moved over to an engineering design, then we moved over to a procurement phase. All of these work hand in hand in order for the clients to get a value at the end of the day. But if we can be frank, and I know that sitting here we can, this also comes to the bottom line. If we need to integrate, for instance, a generator or an energy management system that needs to do these performances, that needs to make these calculations, that needs to optimize when a plant is at its peak, let it rather maybe, for instance, charge the battery, or let the generator run at a certain phase. These aspects, the plant build as well, like you mentioned, it has a cost implication.
No, for sure.
So clients can't expect to get a premium service at a competitive rate. And we don't say that we want to charge our clients exorbitantly. We give them a premium price point and they get a premium service.
I think to add on to that is analyzing the data becomes very important now. And I don't think clients always acknowledge that. And there's so many tools out there that can help you there. Exactly what you're saying. The O&M is not just cleaning the panels and seeing everything's working. It's analyzing the systems through the SSLO methodology and saying, where are we using? Are we got excess power? Do we use it to charge our batteries?
Yes.
There's a lot of other stuff, maintenance. It's ongoing engineering, almost advice and consulting. So the SSLO process is not just for our clients' O&M, it's also a consulting aspect to it, where we actually not just gather data and just pass it on to a client. We actually analyze that data and say, our suggestion is X, Y, and Z, and optimizing ongoing, because your job doesn't stop just when you build the plant. That's ongoing, because the cycle of a business changes. You might have more use. We saw over COVID when people kind of halved their factories, There was excess power not being used. People might be adding on lines to their factories, and then they need more excess power, or they need power. How do we best do that? There's always a different kind of, there's not one fits all solution.
Yeah.
And I don't know if clients are getting that advice from the code O&M people.
Okay.
And I it's not to knock other O&Ms, but cleaning panels and just checking everything works is not the all. On Solarcare side, we try and do it one step further by implementing the SSLO methodology. And that's what standard that we want to kind of set in the industry.